to record. There it is now. Can we skip down to the next slide, Marissa, please? Oh, okay, communication protocols. I touched on these some. So I mentioned you can mute and unmute yourself. I mentioned the chat button, the raise hand button. If you're calling in on a landline, please welcome to press *9, and that'll raise your hand so we can call on you when it's your turn to speak. And then the last little nuance is about letting many other folks speak as well, right? So please do raise your hand to speak and feel free to chime in. But if you're the only person speaking and there's other people that want to speak, I might ask you to put your hand down or call on someone else to make sure we can hear from everyone today. Next slide, please. So the agenda. So we're doing the welcome. We'll do some introductions here in a second, particularly the CWG members. And then Erica will provide responses to the dangling questions from the last CWG meeting, some focused responses to those. And then we'll get into a discussion about the CWGs generally. So things there like, I'll give a recap of the general roles of CWG and CWG members. Then we'll get into discussion about the role of the chair, and we'll select our new chair for the CWG today. And I'll put out front that we do have 2 nominees for chair. There's Anna and Jonathan. And we'll also have an opportunity for other folks to nominate themselves or someone else on the CWG to be chair, and we can update. We have a poll ready to go, and if there are other nominations, we can plug those names in, and then we'll have a vote. And after that vote, we should select our new chair for the Santa Clara CWG. And then following the discussion and voting selection process for the chair, we'll have a conversation about the CWG facilitator moving forward. As I mentioned, I'm just temporary. Bernice will lead that discussion with me facilitating as needed. And following that, we'll have some report back on the results from the survey that we sent out and the 2022 work plan for the Santa Clara CWG. We'll also talk a little bit about some upcoming outreach and engagement activities. Then we'll pass it back over to give the standing BSV Phase 2 project update. And that's really a recap of what happened at the VTA May board meeting. Then Eric will talk about give an overview of the construction transportation management plan process. And then we'll have time for you to report out with the remaining time, saying whatever you want to say. And also let me say that, we want to keep this open, right? So discussion is welcome along the way. Just raise your hand or chime in at the appropriate time and use chat throughout, but we're also reserving some focus time to hear from all of you, which we definitely want to do. Next slide, please. So with that, let's jump into introductions of the CWG members. And if we could just go down in the list in the order as shown here, just name an organization, please. And Anna, we'll start with you.
Hi, Anna Vargas Smith, a member of Reclaiming Our Downtown, also a Historical Landmarks Commissioner and a board member of the Silicon Valley Central Chamber, and a member of the Downtown Community Task Force, the downtown that we've been working on for 4 years. So I do wear a lot of community hats.
And there's a strong possibility that you will also be the CWG chair later today to add to that list. We don't know. We don't
know.
But you are one of the 2 finalists.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't see Christian on. Is there anyone else on from the Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce?
That would be me. Christian was willing to allow me to cover for him. He's extremely busy right now as we're doing some changes over at the chamber. So I am a board member secretary, actually. So I will take notes.
Cool. Thank you, Anna. And same applies, right? If you're with an organization, it's not your name listed here, please chime in. I don't see Curtis. And I'm just going to keep going, but if you are with Hunter Storm, as you would be with any other organization, chime in. I don't see David either. Jack, I do see Jack. Jack, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. Jack Morass, South Bay Historic Railroad Society at the Santa Clara Caltrain station at the depot there. So everybody stop by.
Great, thank you so much, Jack. I don't see John. I don't see Jonathan, but I know Adam is here supposed to be representing him today. And I do see Adam. Adam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, Adam Thompson. I'm an Old Quad resident board member, as well as the chair of the Santa Clara Downtown Task Force. So thank you for letting me attend.
Thank you so much, Adam. And I don't see Luke, and I don't see Ron. If there's any other CWG members I missed or stepping in, please jump in. Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, next slide, please. So just a quick reminder of some of the upcoming meetings we have. So we do have on our radar doing CWG socials, that those are not like a regular CWG meeting. Those are more getting back in person so we can have that great connection. People meet in person, right? Talk before meetings, whisper in people's ears during, chat afterward, maybe grab dinner, drinks with some of your colleagues / friends. We are still waiting for the contact to come about for us to do that, right? Like VTA board meetings are still virtual. And so we don't really have a policy framework to be able to do in-person meetings yet. But once that circumstance changes, we definitely want to get together and meet in person. And then a reminder that we also have the regular CWG meetings upcoming that are roughly quarterly, the next ones being in September and November. We're also targeting a phase 2 community social, which is a broad public meeting that we're looking to have in the downtown VTA station block, a nice central location. And I confirmed today that will be at the end of August, slated to be on August 27th. And also, you know, information about BSV and discussion about it happens at regularly at the VTA Board of Directors meetings that happen the first Thursday of every month. The board's off in July, so next one's in June and August. And also a reminder that Kristen is your CWG coordinator, and she will email alerts out for other meetings, things like VTA board workshops. Next slide, please. And also a reminder of the folks that are here to work with you. We have Bernice, who you'll hear from later today, the director of VTA External Affairs for VTA's BART program. We have Marissa, who's joined us recently, who is also on the External Affairs team. Kristen, who I mentioned, who is your CWG coordinator, and Erica, who is here today, who I think all of you know, is your representative for the Santa Clara station. Next slide, please. So with that, I'll pass it over to Erica to talk about some of the follow-up items from the last CWG meeting.
Thanks, Doug. There's a question about the business resource program and some more details about when it's going to get kicked off and such. And so wanted to confirm and share that, yes, we are developing a business resource program and that it will be in place when we break ground. The intent of the program is to provide assistance to businesses that remain during construction. Right now, we're in the planning stages of developing the program, working with JC Lacey, who's recommended the 4 components of the program you see on the right side of the screen. And we're further analyzing those 4 areas. We provided an update to the VTA Board of Directors in March and plan to go back again in August with more details. And Kristen will be sure to reach out and let you know in advance of when we plan to go to the board so you can listen to that update as well. As I mentioned, we're planning for August, but we don't have that calendared yet, so don't know for sure. Next slide. There was also some questions related to the website and where folks can ask questions or about the project in a trackable way. Our team is exploring implementing a virtual project office where folks could access information and leave comments in an interactive platform. A key member of our team, Lucas Perez, he's here today. He's been brought on from the customer service to help improve that experience. We're super glad that he's here. In the meantime, while we work through that, you can provide your comments and questions to us through email and phone at the contact information below, or you can reach out to one of us directly, as many of you have done before. And we track all that information in the Salesforce platform to track all inquiries and comments that we receive on the project. So we are able to track them and have been tracking them this whole time. So we do have the trackable platform already in place, and we'll continue to keep you updated related to the virtual project office.
Thank you, Erica. And we'll take a pause to see if there's any questions or comments for Erica before we move on to the CWG discussion. Hearing none and seeing no hands raised, we'll jump down to the CWG discussion. I kind of gave an overview of everything we're going to do in this section earlier. I'll give the recap. It'll be the chair roles and selection process, the conversation about the facilitator going forward, and then sharing a summary of what we learned from the survey results, from the survey that we sent out, the results of that, and our work plan, and then a little bit more detail on some upcoming community outreach events. Next slide, please. So before we get into the conversation about selecting the CWG chair, I'd just like to give a reminder of the, the historic role of the CWG and the expectations of CWG members. The CWG generally, the expectation is that the CWG will be project liaisons. They'll receive briefings on technical areas like you do with these meetings, and project updates like these at these meetings as well, to build an understanding of the project, so that you can collaborate with VTA to contribute to the successful delivery of the project. So that's the overall CWG. And for individual CWG members, we're looking for CWG members to attend these meetings like you are today, so you can get informed and disseminate accurate information to your communities. But it's really a two-way role, right? It's one, learning about the project, sharing that with your community, and then learning from your community about their feelings, their thoughts on the projects, and sharing those back with us, in an honest way, and providing feedback, so we can ultimately do what that lower left-hand bullet says, work together to contribute to successfully deliver this project. Next slide, please. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Bernice to lead the discussion of the role of the chair and the process to select.
Great, thanks, Doug. So we received some input about 3 months ago. We had a chair role for the 28th Street Little Portugal CWG, and we received some input as to having chairs for all 3 of the CWGs. So we wanted to go over what exactly the chair would be doing and will be doing. They will play an active role in helping the VTA team and the BART's team set up the agendas for the meeting, including the topics that you'd like us to focus on and any guest speakers that we might bring in. The meetings will continue to be facilitated by VTA, but the chair will definitely provide input on how we plan out the meetings and the topics that we cover. We also will be utilizing the chair to manage the member report out section of the meetings. We really want to encourage more engagement of the members in this portion of the meeting so that we can really hear what's going on out in the community. The role of the CWG members is to really be a liaison to the community, both disseminating information and bringing it back. So we really want to encourage people to feel comfortable speaking up and sharing what they're hearing out there in the community and things that they're learning and how information that they're pushing out is being received. This first term for the chair will be from this June through next May of 2023. As Doug had mentioned, we were taking nominations electronically, but today we're happy to take more nominations and then select the chairs for each CWG. And if one or more person is nominated, then we can have a role for an alternate as well. So happy to answer questions if you have any questions about the role of the CWG chairs and the process. Anything, Doug? Any hands raised? Nothing? Okay, let's.
I see no hands raised. I see nothing in the chat.
Okay, then I'm gonna say that it's covered. Okay, next slide, please.
Apparently we're being very clear. So if we're not.
Okay. We have a
Ron.
drum roll right now. Should we do drum roll?
We do have a hand raised from Ron. Ron.
Okay.
Go.
Can you guys hear me? I'm in the
Yes.
car. So I think this is a great idea. The question I was going to ask, when you take a look at all the money that's being spent, on this project and blah, 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 whether or not there was any consideration towards compensating the chair, if the chair was, wanted to be compensated. I mean, we seem to be pretty, there's a lot of money floating around, and whoever takes this role, and I'm not interested, it's going to be a lot of time. So I would think there should be some form of compensation afforded, in whatever means you guys think you can afford.
Yeah, I think there's more to compensation than compensation. So we'd have to look into that, because once there's compensations, there's other legalities that go with that. So I'd have to check on that. I know that sometimes board members get stipend for different things, but I would definitely have to check what all of the legal implications are once there's some type of compensation as part of the part of the CWGs because that's not part of the initial charter of the CWGs. So I'll have to check in on that.
Yeah, that's fair. And maybe it's, you know, they get to ride BART for 10 years for free, or who the heck knows. But I think there should be something there because that's going to be a pretty demanding role. And it seems like everybody else is getting compensated except the chair, who's going to do a lot of work. Okay.
Do you have access to any free ride tokens, Bernice? You don't have to answer that question. So let's move on and let's do the vote. So we have two current nominations for the CWG chair, who are Anna and Jonathan. Before we do the vote, are there any other nominees for the CWG chair, acknowledging that compensation is currently uncertain for this position? I'm sorry, I might be joking about things I shouldn't be. Are there other nominations for the CWG chair other than Anna or Jonathan? If so, you can take them in the chat, raise your hand. Ron, is your hand up as a remnant? Or did you have someone you want to
Yes,
nominate?
it is. Yeah, let me put it down. Hang on. Oh, gosh.
Okay, thank you. And then what I've been doing is I've been doing a 5-second countdown. So if I see no one else in the chat, or I see no hands raised or no one chimes in, we're going to move ahead with the vote. So 5, Patricia, yes.
Hi, my understanding was there was an online poll that was already distributed during the nomination process. Was that outcome going to be included in the vote you're going to do now?
I know that poll happened. I know there was some conversation about it as well, but I wasn't involved in those conversations. Bernice, are you able to provide some background on that?
I thought the poll was just for the nominees. I don't know whether we did a vote. So that's how we got the names, but I don't believe there was any voting in the poll. So it's how we got these names that are here, but we did not make any voting decision on the names that were presented.
Okay. And then for this vote that you're going to do, who's eligible to actually make a vote?
It should only be the CWG members.
Got it. Thank you.
We don't have a way to control that on the back end. Just a heads up. So we're asking that the CWG members are the only ones that vote. Marissa, we can see that information on the back end, right? So we're able to confirm if the vote that was as the vote occurs today, we can see who voted for what to confirm that the results are valid after this meeting.
Yes, so as soon as everyone submits their vote, the answers will be shared. It'll all be anonymous though, so no one will know who voted for who, but all of the scores will be shown on the screen right now when we vote for them.
Okay, so that's and so we will not have the names for whoever voted. It's anonymous no matter what. We don't have a record of that.
No, we don't have a record of who they voted for.
So we're going to do the vote today, right? And I guess there is a possibility that someone would contest that, and we might have to do another vote that's only CWG members, like via email, right? But the best tool we have available to us now is the poll on Zoom, which we plan on doing, and I think we should do, barring any major objections from the CWG members. And let me pause there as well to see if there's any objections from CWG members about doing the vote as I just described. And if there are, please put up your hand or put something in the chat, and I'll pause for a couple moments.
Doug, actually, one additional thing, can you identify the actual members that are present right now? And if there are any that are absent, where their vote won't be counted?
That is correct. We had the members introduce themselves earlier. Do you want me to go back to the slide with the CWG members listed at the beginning and read the ones that are present? And that is correct. If a CWG member is not present today, they're not counted. So would you like me to go back to the initial slide and state the CWG members that are here today, Patricia?
Yeah, just very quickly. That would be great. Thank you.
Will do. Marissa, would you go back to the CWG member slide, please? Okay, so Anna is here today. And I will also say that if you're on the desktop version and you click up on view in the upper right-hand corner, you can go to gallery mode, where you can see a box will show up where you can see everyone that's in today's meeting. And you can also, there's a bar in the middle you can slide to make the PowerPoint deck smaller and then make all the faces appear on your screen. Still, that being said, we have Anna here today. Christian is not with us, but Anna is here representing the chamber. Curtis is not here, nor is anyone else from Hunter Storm, as I understand. David is not here, nor is anyone else from Santa Clara University, as I understand. Jack is here today. John is not here today, nor is anyone else from the Newhall Neighborhood Association, as I understand. Jonathan is not here today, but Adam is here in his place, representing the Old Quad Residents Association, and we assume that Adam will be voting on Jonathan's behalf. I don't see Luke here today, nor anyone else for the San Jose Earthquakes, and I don't see Ron. Nor
Ron
anyone
is here. We just talked to Ron on the phone just a second ago.
Oh, okay, great. So Ron came on later.
He joined late, yeah.
Thank you for that correction, Erica. And Ron is with us, and Ron was able to vote. And sorry for missing you there, Ron. So those are the members here today. We ask only the CWG members vote. And then I'll pause again to see if there's any comments, questions. We have a question in the chat from Anna. Do all CWG votes include those nominated? Yes, the people that are nominated may also vote for the CWG chair. So I'm going to pause again and see if there's any other feedback from the group before we move forward with the voting as described and proposed.
And since you're just taking a vote on people who are present, is it going to be simple majority, or are you taking Brown Act rules on quorum rules?
The intention is simple majority. I don't believe the Brown Act applies to the CWGs.
No,
Correct. It
I
does
don't
not.
believe, yeah.
Just want to clear it up. Thank you.
You are welcome. So with that, I'm pausing. If there's any other questions or comments before we go to the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so hearing none, I'm hearing that we are accepting moving forward with the vote as described. So Marissa, would you please bring up the poll, and we ask only the CWG members to vote.
Can you see the poll, Doug?
I can, yes, I see the back end. I see 4 votes so far. I don't see any more votes coming in. I think we have more CWG members than 4. And I will still wait for more votes to come in. And if people don't place a vote, I think we're going to assume that that is functionally abstaining. Okay, I still see it stabilized from my end. I'll do a countdown from 10 this time to still give people an opportunity to get their votes in. Or, you know, you can also put something in the chat or say something. Sounds great, Lindsay. Yes, only CWG members should vote, so thank you for abstaining. So 10, 9, 8. Okay, I've got one more, so I'll start back over. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, with that, Marissa, would you please share the poll results?
Mm-hmm.
And the group can now see the poll results, correct? So from the CWG members present today, voting as described leading up to this vote, the new CWG chair is Anna Vargas Smith. Congratulations, Anna. May we have a round of applause for Anna as your new CWG chair.
Well, thank you. All right, appreciate it.
Congratulations, Anna. We look forward to working with you in your new role, which you now have some responsibilities that we'll also describe as we continue with the meeting. So thank you very much. Marissa, you can take the poll results down. Great. So with that, we're gonna, I still see the results. Can I just close this window? It'll go away. Okay, that worked on my end. I just closed the box. So the moving on to CWG facilitator. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it to Bernice to lead this discussion, but I will share that the new chair, one of their roles will be participating in the process to confirm the new CWG facilitator. So Bernice, over to you.
Oh, sorry, had to get myself off mute. So another bit of input we got was, throughout COVID with us doing the virtual meetings, we have been having the members of the BART external affairs team do the facilitation for the remote meetings. We are hoping, and we have wanted to very much get back to in-person meetings. We are following suit of what VTA is doing with their board meetings and their committee meetings. So once those begin to be in person, we'll be able to follow suit. But for now, we really are planning to start engaging a third-party outside facilitator, and wanted to just go over what that role and purpose would be. And that would be for them to do the meeting facilitation, what Doug is doing today, to keep us on track with our agenda and keep us on track with the subject discussions and encourage those discussions when appropriate. Help guide productive conversations, draw out conversations, or ensure those wanting to speak are speaking, and not that we have an issue, but just maintain a certain level of discourse. This facilitator will be a third party facilitator so that they can facilitate the meetings very objectively. And then we will keep the CWG members informed as we begin the process to engage a facilitator. And I just wanted to throw out this role and see if there was anything in addition that the CWG members thought when we're searching out for this third-party facilitator, any qualities or traits or additions to the role that they would serve. So welcome to any feedback and input you may have.
Can we go to the previous slide and just give folks a second to ask questions or make comments on this topic before we move on?
Yeah, this is Jack. Was Eileen available, or is she gonna be asking her to do it?
So, we're not sure if she's available, and that's why I'm asking you what role you're looking for in a facilitator. If it's strictly facilitation, then that might be a different skill set than an Eileen, because Eileen is very much, what do I want to say, very politically integrated, and comes at, to be perfectly honest, comes at a cost at much more than a facilitator that is doing the role of facilitation would come at.
Okay, thanks.
Adam, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. When we're looking for a facilitator, do you guys look for some, an entity that has done a public project of this size and kind of understands some of the technical aspects to it? I mean, I know they're just facilitating, but understanding when to drive that conversation and when to move on is really helpful if they've been through a process that's similar size and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. The effort to this point of looking for a facilitator is working with entities that have led some pretty significant public processes and facilitated other community type CWG efforts before.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions or comments for Bernice?
Oh, one more. Is it possible to get a short list and let CWG have a choice if there is a short list?
Let me look into that. I'll have to find out
Okay.
if there's anything with the procurement process and confidentiality, right? If it's a competitive, I need to check on that. But if
Okay.
there are no issues, certainly we're open to that. I'm just
Awesome.
not
I do
sure.
know. Yeah, no problem. When we hired someone for the downtown task force, we were able to get two two of the DCTF members to actually be part of the interview process, and I think it ended up being really beneficial because
Okay.
we kind of were able to align, what the goals of the DCTF was to the proposals received. So I think it might expedite
really appreciate
the
that
process.
input.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Next slide, please. So this is the recap of the survey results, the results from the survey that we sent out to CWG members. Just to be transparent, we only received 15 responses total across the CWGs out of roughly 40 members. So, a little less than 30% response, which would be good for a broad public survey. This shows the results that we learned, right? So the items in dark blue are where over 50% of the respondents said that these are important agenda topics for future CWG meetings. And there's some themes here. So up at the top are things like station area planning and adjacent developments in real estate and TOD. And then there's also the framing around things related to construction, like construction planning, the construction transportation management plan. Erica's going to provide an update on that later today. And then the pre-construction survey and monitoring program. And this information is very helpful for us, right? So there is a work plan for 2022 that you'll see on the next slide. And there are things like project milestones. So when information is ready to be shared and when it's a good time for us to collect feedback on certain items based on the natural progression of the project. But understanding what's important to the CWG member is also very helpful because it helps us understand how much airtime, how much time in the agenda we should allocate to particular topics, to meet the desires of the CWG, the desires and needs. Next slide, please. So this is the draft work plan for the Santa Clara CWG for 2022. It's included in the slide deck that you all had emailed out to you. And another role of the chair, Anna, is we intend to work with you to refine this work plan moving forward and dial in the agendas as part of the CWG meetings.
Okay.
Next slide, please. We also asked a question about, do you like having an annual combined CWG meeting? Or do you want all the meetings to be separate? So both the Santa Clara CWG and the downtown CWG, downtown Diridon CWG, of the response received indicated that they like at least one mixed meeting. So we'll take, that you like that as is the other CWG. So we'll take that into account when thinking about how we organize future CWG meetings. Next slide, please. We also asked if you have feedback regarding how the meeting is facilitated and formatted. Summaries of the feedback we received are here in the boxes, and the green check arrows indicate how we're already making changes based on the feedback received. So you're experiencing the updated Zoom meeting settings today. We're also trying to reduce the items on the agenda, have less presentation, provide more space for feedback to hear more from you. We heard a request to have BSV updates on the agenda. They are. Bernice is going to be giving that general one later today, and we intend to continue to have those as a standing agenda item. We heard, about having CWG social meetings, those ones where folks get together in person. We do plan on doing that once the context allows, as I described earlier, as COVID starts to subside, and it makes, there's a policy framework that allows us to have public meetings, as a meeting put on by VTA. And there's some other things here in the smaller boxes. A couple of them are giving kudos to us, which we say thank you, and we'll take credit if you're gonna offer it. One is the meetings are facilitated very well and have a great flow. Thank you for that. That is for everyone that came before me, and hopefully that happens after me. Hopefully I'm doing okay today, and that the format is done well and very professionally. Thank you again for that. There's also a request to provide a roster of each CWG group with email addresses, and we intend to do that. So we intend to email out a list of who's on the CWG, what the email addresses are, so you can communicate with one another. We do ask that if you don't want your email included on that list, to please email Kristen and let her know that, so that we can leave your email off, like if you want your privacy from the other CWG members. Next slide, please. We also asked a question about the time of day preferences for the CWG meetings. The majority of responses, the most responses, the highest interest we heard from the most people, that people like the current time. So we plan to keep the times what they are. Next slide, please. So just as kind of a summary of how we've incorporated the feedback we've heard to date. I've mentioned a lot of these. We're reducing the agenda items to create more room for discussion. We have the updated Zoom meeting format that you're experiencing. There's the work to bring on a new CWG facilitator, which Bernice just talked about. There's the work to institute a CWD chair, which we did that vote earlier today, who your new chair is Anna, apologies. And we're working on getting back in person meetings, like with those community CWG socials that I described earlier, once the context allows. Next slide, please. So some updates on some upcoming community outreach opportunities. Just a reminder that the project website is up. It has a lot of information on it that you can always access. We also send out blasts of information via social media, things like Facebook and Twitter. We also produce fact sheets. Those are available on the project website. We also take those out to community engagement events with us so people can pick those up. Right now we have fact sheets, an updated fact sheet about the project benefits and about tunneling. Also a reminder that we do hold community meetings. We have a large one coming up that I talked about at the on the VTA block. That's that community social in late August 27th. That we intend to advertise widely and invite the public broadly too. Also a reminder that we'll give tailored group presentations. If you have things like a neighborhood association, a business association, advocacy groups that would like to learn about the VTA's BART project, provide comments, ask questions, just let us know who that group is, the topics you want to learn about, to talk about, and we'll set that up. There's also a hotline that anyone can call to ask questions or make comments about the project. And then also a heads up that we are sending out an alignment survey. And that is basically within 1,000 feet of the alignment. We're just asking folks how they would like to be communicated with as the project advances. Like, for example, do you prefer mailers? Do you prefer email? Would you like a phone call? Do you like text? Are there particular languages you would like it in? Or are there accessibility features that you would need to have accommodated or should be accommodated that we should take into account? And we intend to use that information to keep people informed on all things VTA's BART project moving forward. Next slide, please. And then an update on some upcoming community engagement events. So on June 10th, the San Jose Downtown Association is going to host a meeting focused on VTA's BART project at the Tabard Theater. So it'll be in person, also streaming. And we intend to, we'll be there presenting and talking with folks. There are the summer socials for the CWGs that I talked about, us getting back together in person with these groups when the context allows. There's that larger community social at the central VTA downtown block in late August that I talked about. We also plan to do some tabling events in the station areas in July through September. We expect those locations to be very similar to the tabling locations that we had for the station look and feel effort, which there's pictures of to the right. So in Santa Clara, we had a pop-up at the Santa Clara Caltrain station and one at the farmers market. And just a reminder that we want your help to work with your local neighborhood associations, business associations, advocacy organizations, everyone, to build awareness of the project to help us deliver it successfully. Next slide, please. So let me pause there before we move on to the May board recap, the VTA board recap that Bernice will talk about, and see if there's any questions on any of the things that I just shared. Or comments.
I just wanted to commend you on the socials. I think those were very successful in Santa Clara when we did the farmers market and the train station. People do like to receive their information that way. And the social media, that's also a very strong option too. So thanks for doing those outreach. That was very successful.
Absolutely, and thank you for the feedback, Anna. Any other questions or comments? Adam, is your, I think your hand's up probably as a remnant again.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, so let's jump on to the next section, which is Bernice, you're up for the recap of the May VTA board meeting.
Sure, and I'm going to give you some program highlights as well. We have been having ongoing monthly meetings with the Federal Transit Administration, and that is our efforts working collaboratively between now and October of 2023 in the ultimate goal of getting a full funding grant agreement from the FTA. We have some good news. We got an additional $200 million allocated from the president's proposed fiscal year 2023 budget. That makes the total allocation to the BART project of federal funds up to $425 million now. We're advancing with the real estate acquisition process and progressing in acquisitions based on the project delivery. The project right now is currently slated to basically start on the west side in the area of Santa Clara, actually in San Jose at the tunnel portal will be some of the first early work. So looking at those acquisitions first and then acquiring properties from west to east. We have been working on our second round of cooperative agreements with both the city of San Jose and Santa Clara. And those agreements cover how we work and partnership and collaboration with the cities in reviewing design and actually reviewing documents and permitting materials for actual construction. We are continuing our technical coordination with our partnering agencies and third parties like the utilities. We have agreements also with all the utilities on relocating those utilities and how that work will be done. We conducted some station workshops with the organization SPUR and the city of San Jose and BART on looking at some of the aspects of the stations. And we also gave an update to the joint VTA BART working committee, and that consists of 4 members from each of the boards. Next slide, please. So last month in our VTA's Administration and Finance Committee, there were some discussions on the project cost and the difference between the $6.9 billion cost that VTA and the BART team has been utilizing. That's the number that we've projected as a cost projection in our application. The Federal Transit Administration did what's called a risk assessment, and they took our cost projection and they added additional cost elements. Some of those included adding additional contingency. We based a contingency of 30% on the project. The federal government had advised up to 42%. We had UCLA do an analysis on inflation index, and we went off their analysis, which I think was 2.7%, and the federal government suggested a higher rate of inflation. They also added some cost to our projection related to the increase in a cost for commodities and goods and labor due to COVID. So part of our LOI, letter of intent, in our application process is giving us the opportunity as we begin to advance these contracts to get more cost certainty. And we will update our $6.9 billion cost projection accordingly when we have more cost certain bids from our contractors bidding on the 4 major contracts. And that's why we have that 2-year period to look at what the actual cost is projected to be. The other item that came up were our funds to fund our operations and maintenance for the Berryessa extension and ultimately the full 16-mile extension of the system, including this project. There was an identified possible funding shortfall of 2008 Measure B funds to cover this in the long term. But I just want to let the committee members know and others that there are other mechanisms in place to support the O&M and other funding sources. So those can be and could be utilized in the event of depletion of 2008 Measure B funds. Happy to answer any questions. Oh, I've got one more slide. Forgot, sorry, maybe 2 more slides. Sorry, my phone's ringing, it's distracting me. So on our CP2 contract, this was awarded, we'll actually gave the general manager permission to enter into an agreement with the joint venture of Cwg Trailer for the first stage of the tunnel and track work contract. This first stage of the contract, which ultimately will be in the $2 billion range or somewhere around that, is to advance design. When we did the application for the EPD, one of the reasons they're adding all that contingency is we applied at a very, very early level of design, like preliminary conceptual at about 10 to 15%. In this stage one, the contractor will advance this design to approximately 90%. And then they will do some cost projections, and then down in the future, stage two will be awarded, and that's the actual construction. So stage one includes review of proposed innovations. Part of their submittal was looking at innovations to both enhance the project and actually look at maybe some cost and efficiency savings. And then, like I said, in this stage one, they will estimate the total construction cost. Next slide, please. So the award that was done at the last board meeting was for the 235 million. So there also was some $19 million added for some initial early work packages. We actually are anticipating executing the contract and getting a limited notice to proceed tomorrow. And that's when the contractor will begin engaging. We will continue collaborating, working with BART at the City of San Jose and City of Santa Clara and other stakeholders on those innovations I mentioned, and looking at those design concepts of which ones might advance. And then there will be an update on the CP2 and potential innovations that goes to the VTA board in September. So they're going to be working on that for about 90 days. One other item I wanted to talk about was a request that was brought up at the last board meeting, and that was for VTA to do an independent analysis, a peer review on the twin bore and single bore. The contract that we awarded and the current direction is the single bore tunneling methodology and the single bore project, but we are going to be doing that peer review and bringing on someone to do that. To basically do yet another analysis. We've done previous analysis, but the goal is that this analysis will further support the direction that we're going in and elicit more confidence in that direction. And we can focus on delivering the project and look forward. These are the anticipated actions related to the CP2 contract. As I mentioned, through now through September, the contractor will be presenting the innovations. There are approximately, I think, 24 innovations that were part of a proposal, and we'll look at which ones are feasible and which ones will advance. From the last quarter of 2022, the first quarter of 2023, that will be where some of the early work packages occur in the contract. And those include like ordering the tunnel boring machine, some utility relocations, demolition of some of the buildings that we'll be taking down, site prep, and excavating for that portal, which is really in San Jose, but just on the border of the City of Santa Clara, where the tunnel boring machine will enter into the ground. In the last part of 2023, some of the early packages for construction, like enabling works and site prep, and some of the concrete structures will be done. And then full blown, well, I want to also mention that in that Q3, Q4 of 2023, we'll be working with stakeholders and approving the construction transportation management plan. At this point, the contractor will have identified their means and methods for delivery. So the construction transportation management plan, the draft plan for this contract specific Ctmp will go out for review. And that way the Ctmp will be in place when the heavy construction starts in the last quarter of 2023 or first quarter of 2024. This is our procurement update. Just as a reminder, we're delivering this project through 4 major contracts: systems, tunnel, and track work. The contract very relevant to the Santa Clara CWG is our contract package 3, which is the new haul yard and Santa Clara station. If you look here, there is a green check on the orange thing, which is request for proposals. We have put out the draft request for proposal, and in the very near future, we'll have the final RFP out, and we anticipate a notice to proceed on that contract sometime in the latter part of 2023. You can see where the other contract packages are. I just gave you a pretty extensive update on the tunnel and track work. That is the largest contract in this 4 contract program. And then the other contract, the stations contract, that is being sort of held and put on the shelf as we advance some of these innovations, because the CP2 contract is the basis for everything else. So we will be putting out the stations contract, which covers the 3 San Jose stations at a later date. And now I'm happy to answer any questions on any of that information.
Doug, you're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, I have a question. How good do you think that schedule is, given today's global situation with allocations and shortages and all the rest of it? I mean, what's your good? I mean, is that schedule take that into account? I mean, how do you reconcile your schedule with what's going on in the world?
So we did back in December, and I believe in February again, we added on the tunnel and track work. We did add, I believe, 8 months, mainly due to the tunnel boring. And so we have incorporated a little bit longer into that part. We haven't extended the overall, that gray bar out beyond 2030 yet. I'm not saying that that won't go out beyond 2030. And so part of this, part of what's occurring with the tunnel and track work as they advance the design, will have more certainty. They will be doing an open book cost and schedule process with us. That contract is progressive design build. So we'll be working hand in hand on that. So we will have much more certainty on both the cost projection and schedule in the next 12 to 18 months. So we didn't extend the gray out because there are activities that can be done concurrently, especially like system testing and integration. They can be doing some of that while some of the finishes are done. So we'll have to look at all the sequencing and how things can be overlapped. So right now we're holding at that 2030, but it could, as we get these final certain kind of cost and schedules, that could possibly change.
Yeah, because a lot of this is outside of everybody's control. I mean, look, there's a baby formula shortage. There's a glass shortage, believe it or not. It's all over the place. So, I mean, this is just my 2 cents. It seems to me that if we wanted to play it smart, we'd get that boring machine, ordered and in, because you can bore without having all this other stuff. And that's probably the biggest thing to do, right?
That's one of the first, early works is ordering that tunnel boring machine. You're absolutely right.
Thank you, Ron. Are there other questions for Bernice or comments on what she shared? I see nothing in the chat. I see no hands up. So I'm assuming that there aren't. So let's jump on to the next section. Next up is Erica to talk with you about the construction transportation management plans. Erica.
Great, thank you. Wanted to give an update here on the process. As a reminder, the construction transportation management plan is how we coordinate multimodal access during construction. A draft CTMP, we call the construction transportation management plan CTMP for short, was created by VTA, the City of San Jose, and City of Santa Clara, and is included in all 4 contract packages. It also includes the Emergency Services Coordination Plan, which is another environmental commitment that we made, which lays out how we coordinate emergency services during construction so our construction does not negatively impact their response times. As all 4 packages, contract packages for the project are design build or progressive design build, we have created a draft plan so that we don't dictate the contractor's means and methods. And so the draft is high-level overarching information. And once the contractors come on board, they'll develop contract package specific CTMPs in coordination with VTA, the cities, building off of the draft plan and adding in more detail on detours, sequencing, et cetera, based on their means and methods. Then based on those, the contractors will develop site specific traffic control plans, which will include requirements on access routes, signage, notifications, and parking, amongst other things. Next slide. Wanted to walk through the schedule of the development of the CTMP. So in 2018, we completed our final environmental document, which included public involvement and city coordination, committing to developing the construction outreach management program, which includes the CTMP and the emergency services coordination plan I just mentioned, as well as the construction education and outreach plan, which I know you all have heard about several times over the past several years. So during that process, we received more than 160 comments on topics that are covered in the CTMP, which has fed into this whole process. In 2019 and 2020, we completed more than 50 access and service needs interviews with businesses, institutions, and other key stakeholders along the alignment, which fed into the development of the draft CTMP in 2021, where we coordinated with the cities on the development of the draft. So as I mentioned, once contractors come on board, we'll coordinate with them, the cities, as well as stakeholders in the community on the development of the contract package specific documents, which I'm going to walk through next on the next slide. So there'll be general regular coordination between the contractor, VTA, and the city of San Jose and city of Santa Clara throughout the development of the contract specific CTMPs. In addition, there'll be regular coordination with adjacent businesses and institutions throughout the development to provide input and for us to gather information. And in addition, the community will have an opportunity to provide input for our consideration on the draft contract specific CTMPs also. We'll be hosting community meetings where we'll talk about and present the drafts there. As Bernice mentioned, the CP2 contractor is getting onboarded and coming up to speed, and we'll be back in the future to talk more updates on the first CP2 specific CTMP. As you know, CP2 is for the entire alignment. When they start the first document, they're not going to know what's going to happen over at the East Portal or over by the 28th Street station. So we imagine there'll be multiple documents that are created. We don't know yet how many or when they'll do which. But we do know that the first document will very much likely be for the Newhall Yard VTA owned property, as that's where they'll be building the tunnel boring machine and launching the machine from. So I will have more details in the future and we'll continue to come back with updates and happy to answer any questions.
I had a question about the Newhall property. I know that the community is still learning quite a bit about this project. It's slowly happening. Some of the questions that repetitively reoccur is about the Newhall or whether the Santa Clara station project will occur. If we have to remove a station, will it be Santa Clara? Just a lot of those questions if we're still part of the final result of this project. So if per se that the city Santa Clara station is cut off from this project, what happens with the Newhall property? I mean, is it still, I mean, it's kind of difficult. I guess it will just service the other two stations basically, right?
Yeah, so we're building the 4-station project. So there is no intent for us to remove any of the stations. So the Santa Clara station is part of the project, which will be the end of the line. So there's no intent to not build the Santa Clara station, or the maintenance facility there will serve the whole extension, but we will be building the Santa Clara station as well.
Thank you for reconfirming that. I appreciate that.
Sure thing.
Yeah, and I think I just want to add that the project as scoped and the project that we're applying for the federal funds is the project that includes the Santa Clara station. So that is the project that we environmentally cleared, and that's the project we're applying for. And it's the 4-station project with the Santa Clara station and yard.
Thank you.
Great. Mike, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is Mike Liu, City of Santa Clara Public Works Department. So just wanted to feed off of the discussion related to the topic, which is construction and the various phases of the project and all that. So it sounds like the contractors, as they are procured, are going to come work with the VTA and the cities and the community, and in order to basically build the project with the least amount of impacts. That being said, I think there's a lot of detail that's typically involved in that type of coordination. And I think just a suggestion for this CWG that it would benefit this CWG if the contractor for CP2 were to come to this meeting at some point soon, introduce themselves, and then kind of hear what the concerns are. I know you've done a ton of interviews and talked to folks, but things change over time. Costco's got a new roundabout now, which is a little bit different than what it was before. You also have gateway crossings starting to build, and just things have changed in general. And obviously we're coming out of COVID, so traffic's starting to return. So that being said, I think, once again, I believe this group would benefit from some detailed discussion about what CP2 means for the city of Santa Clara and the Santa Clara station. I think some of that may get lost in the discussion because, I think one of the realities of delivering large projects is that, the VTA team is very attuned to the various phases and the packages. The community's not. They're if you were to ask people CP2 versus CP3, they may not even understand what you're referring to. They're just numbers and letters. So I think being able to, bring it down to a level that they can understand is, okay, yeah, so this work's going to happen over the course of 3 months or 6 months, whatever the case may be. That goes a long way to getting the information out versus, people, having issue with things because they just didn't really get what you were talking about because it wasn't present, right? Like for a perfect example is, construction notifications. Once people get that, they see construction, right? But oftentimes they're not paying attention to the land use process or just kind of just as things develop over time. So just a piece of a word of advice and some suggestions for the CWG moving forward. Thanks.
Thanks for your suggestions, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And I know we had mentioned at the CWG meeting we had yesterday for downtown Diridon, as we looking at the draft CTMP, those are opportunities for the CWG members because that's where we look at the means and methods for construction, right, and how traffic will be handled. So there will be, increasing opportunities to engage people. And one other thing, and Lucas is on our meeting today, we're using Salesforce Constituent Management, and we're really right now augmenting our database of all the constituents and identifying all the constituents in close proximity to the project. We're sending out a mailer and collecting all that information to make sure we have correct contact information. We know who the owners of the properties are or what businesses are there and what all the preferred contact information is. So right now we're doing all our pre-data collection so that we are sure that we can reach out appropriately to everybody that will be involved in any proximity to the project, as well as those who are just generally interested or might be commuting through the area.
Cool, thank you.
Great. Ron, I think your hands are remnant again, but confirming. Sometimes I ask that question, you have a question or comment anyway. So Ron, do you have anything you'd like to say? Not hearing from Ron, I'm going to assume the answer is no. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Erica or about the CTMP generally? Okay, great. So let's move on to the next section. The next section is the CWG member report out, report back. But this is generally just, we want to create space to hear from you and give you the opportunity to talk about, ask questions about that which you think you should. So if there's anything anyone wants to say, please chime in. And if you think you might be jumping in, other people might be attacking. There's a few people on the line. If you raise your hand, I'll just call on people in the order that hands are raised. Anna, I did see you went off mute. So if there's something you'd like to say or ask, the floor is yours.
Excuse me, I have a little something going on in my throat today. I think, like I mentioned, the outreach so far has been positive. I agree with Mike from the city. I think his recommendation is ideal because that will really bring home to everyone who's watching this the reality of what's unfolding here as far as the project goes. And we really want to reinforce a positive impression of what BART and VTA will be doing. As far as our community, we have, as Mike mentioned, several projects that have distracted everyone from the VTA BART right now, and that is gateway crossings. I just attended a Parks and Rec meeting there as far as what they're doing with the neighborhood park, and that looks amazing. It will support the density over there, about 1,400 units, I believe they threw out. So, and of course, with the future of BART and their own density projects. So we're looking at how to connect all the dots in that little area as far as the Santa Clara station, our downtown project, which is very important to us. And also we're getting near to the last leg of the project as far as creating a master plan. So there's a lot of intensity there as well. A lot of interest in that area. So timing is good with what you're proposing here for the next CWG meetings. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Anna. Is there anyone else that has anything they'd like to share with the group? Statement, questions? Mike, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for letting me talk. And you can hear me fine.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask a question in relation to the recent city council meeting we had. You know, Santa Clara held the city council study session. You know, Erica, Bernice, and others were on the call, and there was a lot of discussion, a lot of feedback, and you know, I wasn't talked about today, so I wasn't sure if you're going to address that at any point. And then on top of that, really just trying to understand next steps for the VTA. You know, it's you know, as you heard during the meeting, you know, whether it's an elected official or community member, they care deeply about the station in terms of its long-term viability. Obviously, everybody has their opinion, but ultimately, there's definitely a lot of interest in the look and feel, accessibility, all the things that were mentioned. So I'm just curious if we're going to discuss that at all today, or if that's the subject of a future meeting. I think the CWG would benefit from, you know, hearing that feedback, assuming there are folks that really weren't able to attend that council meeting. So just a quick question. Thanks.
And I think Bernice or Erica, do you kind of want to take that to next steps following the Santa Clara City Council study session recently?
Yeah, I mean, I want the group to know that we heard and took all that input with the utmost consideration, and we are taking all that input and looking at what could be possible to respond to some of the feedback we heard. I believe we've got some follow-up meetings scheduled in the very near future to sort of go through what are some of the possibilities to respond to those requests. I think we may have a meeting tomorrow, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Thank you, Bernice. Mike, did Bernice share the type of info you're looking for? Is there anything you'd like her or others to expand on?
No, I think that's fine. I mean, ultimately, you know, this is a VTA-led project, and you received a lot of feedback, and you know, the feedback wasn't simple in a lot of senses. Whether it's right or wrong is not for me to decide ultimately. But you know, I think it's just, you know, making sure that people recognize that or hear that you've heard the feedback loud and clear. I mean, it was the talk is he said that at the meeting, and then you're saying that today, so that's very promising, at least from the perspective of understanding where you're coming from. So you know, so just curious where we're headed from here. I don't know if there's other members that are curious as well, but that's my questions at this time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Bernice, anything you want to add on that subject?
No, but we should be able to, I think, you know, once we have some more follow-up meetings, we should be able to sort of report back sort of what the next direction might be.
Thank you very much. Adam, I see your hand is up. Adam, please, whatever you'd like to say, ask. Go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. And kind of just to kind of ride the last comments by Mike, you know, there has been a lot of input and a lot of interest from the community. And I think that some of the earlier community meetings that were hosted were really one-sided in the sense that VTA gave presentations, but the community was not able to give feedback. It does look like you guys are kind of taking some steps to assist with that and improve, and I really do appreciate it. But do you think that there would be a chance or the ability to do like a design charrette, especially before you guys start going out for an RFP process for, you know, the station itself, as well as the architectural styling, because that is kind of a running theme that has come up in multiple meetings as being something that is really important to the community and affects the community, because it's obviously something that, you know, we see every day as we go by it. And then also, I'd like to get a list of any of the, critical path in the sense of anything that might stop, the progression of the project. I know in one of the meetings, I believe you guys had mentioned that the FTC came in and is looking for an amendment to a DA agreement of the Gateway Crossings project based on who is in control of the streets. So that to me at least sounds like a hurdle that we have to get past in order to continue on with the project. And if there's anything else that you guys have, I mean, I know there's probably a laundry list of them, little ones, but I mean, ones that actually you're going to need other agencies and or additional funding to do. And then the last thing I have is, I did notice that there's a lot of people that are on this board or this committee that are not attending. And I don't know if you guys are taking attendance on a regular basis, but something, again, with all the input or the interest, I should say, from the community, I think that if seats continually go unfilled, the people who are not participating that were invited for this, I think you should open them back up to other community members. We did that with the DCTF. We had two of the seats go unfilled for months, and we ended up reaching back out to the community and bringing some people on, because you really want to make sure you have a quorum and a good, healthy discussion as we go through this. Otherwise, all the time is really kind of, fruitless, right? You're not going to have those good discussions and key points, and then it's all going to pile up to the back end. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. There were a lot of questions there. So I heard one about collaborative opportunities for design, including like related to architectural features and aesthetic elements. I can chime in on that one if you'd like me to, Bernice. I also heard questions about critical path items, and then CWG attendance. And if folks aren't attending, maybe other community members should be invited to join the CWG. Is that a good summary of your list, Adam?
It's a great summary. Thank you.
Okay, good. So let me take the opportunities for collaboration for design, particularly related to architectural elements and aesthetic features. So we did have that station look and feel effort last year. I'm still working on it this year, so it feels like this year. But we had those photos from like the farmers market that you saw earlier, and there was a big, broad engagement event. There were DRC committee, design review committees set up as part of that. But there is some crossover between the CWG members and the members that were involved in that DRC process. And the summary of that is up on the project website. So we did learn a lot from that, a lot that we're applying, and there are further rounds of that. So there should be another opportunity for collaborative work on those portions of design after the contractor for the station is on board. So we have some good framing work. We know we still have a ways to go, and we'll be working with the contractor once they're up and running and engaging you again to try to build from what we know, right? Take those framing elements, translate those in design, work with you to do that in a way that hopefully is satisfying to a majority of people, a consensus of people. So there's the update on that one. I can pause and see if there's questions or comments on that response.
No, my only comment would be that, again, I kind of said it was a lot of the earlier meetings were really kind of a one-way discussion, in the sense of we got presented, we got maybe a couple options, but it really wasn't a discussion. And I think it would be important to have that charrette in that discussion, especially since you guys have not gone out to an RFP. There's, reskinning is an easy thing to do, and it's the running theme that I continually hear in multiple public meetings, that people are just not happy with the way it melds into the historic train station and the rest of the area. So I guess that would be my comment, is that hopefully now that it's becoming more open, we can really get kind of into that discussionary and charrette style.
Okay, thank you. Bernice, do you want to tackle some of those other parts? And I can remind you what the questions were if you want me to tee them up and break it into chunks.
Yeah, team up. I was still kind of just thinking what Adam said about the charrettes and everything. And I think Adam, like what Michael, what we were looking at was, I think when it comes to overall like passenger experience, vertical circulation and thing, I think those are the things that we're really looking at in responding to what we heard at the May 10th City Council meeting. Ultimately, the station the design is, the layout of the station is really driven by it being a functional transit station. So I think changes or any, like we do have the draft RFP out, any changes would really have to be justified, you know, as enhancing or improving the passenger experience and doing something to make it a, what do I want to say, enhance the utilization of the station overall. So I think those things, like we're focusing on what would enhance the passenger experience, right? Because that's really what we got out of that feedback. Tell me, Doug, now on what else am I responding to?
There's one about CWG attendance monitoring that.
Yeah,
And
you know, Adam, I'm glad you brought that up because it is concerning to me. You know, we started out with 3 members today, and then I think we got up to 4. And we really do take these as an external affairs team. We plan for these meetings. You know, we do the planning of when they're going to be a year ahead of time, and we really try to focus on an agenda that's relevant to the project activities. So I am open to suggestions of how we can enhance this engagement. Like Mike said, we heard a lot at the May 10th station workshop, but it is discouraging when we have these CWGs, which is another venue to kind of have that open forum, and maybe we could walk through some of these things and not have a very robust attendance. So we certainly want these meetings to be meaningful and to really engage more and get more immersed in the project. So we're open to any suggestions you have. And I think, yeah, we need to look and find out why people aren't attending. And is it a lack of interest? Is it that we're not presenting the information in the way that people feel is meaningful for them to hear? So really open to how we can enhance participation and what we need to do on the external affairs side to do that.
And on the other part of that question, yes, we do keep track of who attends and who doesn't. We develop meeting summaries, and you know that includes the attendees for each meeting. So that is something we keep track of. There was the last one about critical path items, and that sounds like a pretty complicated question to me, but I know there's a lot of interrelated things. And I also heard Mike talking about it could be helpful to have the contractor speak to this group. And I think in my mind, the answer to those things are likely interrelated. But Bernice, there was the question as well.
Yeah, and you know, the roadway, the thing that you brought up, Adam, was that because it's a private street, our application for funding, there is a possibility that they could have safety concerns for the roadway about access and public safety patrolling, and that could propose a situation where funding could be withheld. So we have brought up to the city that we would like to pursue what needs to be done to make it a public street. So we've been working on that and have been in discussions, and we'll continue to do so.
Great. Are there any others like that? I mean, again, I'm not looking at critical path from like a construction perspective, obviously, because that's way down the line. I'm just saying to get to the point where you're ready to put shovels in the ground. Are there other items, especially ones that take other agencies to approve or you know, that came up and we need to start working on? Because that's the thing, right? I mean, we all know it takes a long time to get multiple agencies to agree on anything. So that's all, just to make sure we can help where we can.
We've been trying to do a lot of proactive work with, you know, working with all the utilities and the third parties to set things up for success. So we're trying to be proactive with things like that.
Great. So I think we answered all of your questions, Adam. Is there anything dangling you'd like us to address?
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the questions and keeping the discussion going. Any other questions or comments from the group during this time for report out? Let me check the chat. If there's anything else anyone would like to say, please raise your hand or just chime in. If not, we will jump on to next steps and wrap up the meeting. So I'll just give it a couple seconds here. Okay, seeing nothing in the chat, no hands raised. Marissa, would you please go to the last slide? So thanks everybody for participating in today's meeting. We are targeting doing that CWG social where we get back in person if the context allows. And regardless, there is the next regular CWG meeting in September for this group that's slated to be September 15th. The draft agenda for that meeting is here based on the work plan that we shared earlier. So there's the phase 2 update. We're all slated to happen. We'll also work with Anna to refine and dial this in before the next CWG meeting in her new role as chair. So right now the draft, the regular phase 2 update, an update on real estate and TOD, the building monitoring program, construction planning, stationary planning and adjacent developments, update on community engagement, and then this session again here, the open forum for CWG members and other folks. CWG members get priority, but if other folks want to speak up in their space, we'll allow that to happen too. So I think that's it. So thanks everybody for participating today. I hope you have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you around and continuing to work with you. So have a great one.
Thank you
All right.
all.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.